and waiting for it to connect to the live streaming, setting up and see if it's reconnecting. Perfect. Looks great to me. I got a third comping, so I have the YouTube, the recording. Let's see if Loom will be working. I've been having some issues. Let's see, finish. Let's get you signed. Okay, do that another time. Okay. Everybody set to go? Everybody, Jose, everybody needs, of course, their camera set. Then Daniela, I don't see your face. Basically, you may want to move the camera so you're in the middle there. Move back, move front. Any questions before we begin? Okay, I'll do some housekeeping and then we will continue. But today's session is a continuation about data. And what do we say about data? Data. It's everywhere. We're inundated with data. Now what do we have to do is make it meaningful, give us insights, tell us the patterns, and help us make better decisions. So we're going to continue with that. And I'll give you some examples of big data. On Wednesday, we will start bringing data again to the workbench and we'll try it out. And do you have any people here that have traded before in stocks, even have done it? Anyone? Raise your hand if you've done any trading, bought, sold. What have you, Gabriella, what have you done?
Options in SPY.
Okay. Are you doing that now?
Yep.
Okay. And why are you doing options?
Because it's like in a short term.
Okay. Okay, good. So you'll be one. Anyone else doing anything else? No one else? So you'll be, Gabriella, you'll be one of our leaders then in our next assignments. People will be used to it. It'd be great. Okay, so let me share my screen and do some housekeeping first. So I'm going to go to my Chrome. We can see everybody here. Everybody looks good. We can see it's what? Delayed, and we can see that it's powered by Zoom. So we're available here. You can see that now I want to go to our J. We'll take attendance at the end of the meeting and we'll go to what's due. So let me go to the what's due. Let me turn this off to make sure that I see what you do. We see today is Monday, September 16th. Before class, you needed to do the recording assignments. And basically what we wanted to do is make sure that everybody had in their toolbox ways in which to document. Ways to document via Zoom, ways to be able to host meetings in Zoom and also record on top of Zoom with your recorders, either through the cloud or on premise. We talked about data and knowledge management in chapter 5, in adaptive assignments and the quizzes. So this is due today. I'm going to go into more detail about data warehousing and data management systems and data marts today and big data today. And next Monday, you have chapter 4 due, which is information security, all on chapter 4. And then on this Wednesday, I'll probably make an assignment, another assignment for hands-on assignment for data. So let's look at Wiley Adaptive, make sure that everything is available. Make sure when let me do this on so I can edit, right? I want to be able to edit. So this, just to make sure, edit it. Chapter 4, which is good. Say yes. And I will submit. And in chapter 4, go to the adaptive assignment, make sure that it's available to you. It's going to show me my dashboard and my role as the instructor. It says no one has started and I need to get a due date. So I need to edit the assignment. And I want to go to next step. Next step, and set a due date and assign it to our entire class, not individuals. And I want to go to next and have the due date for the 23rd before the class time. So I want to make sure that it'll be then, due time is 5 p.m. I'm going to save it. Save it, and it should be available to you to make sure that it is available. Perfect. And then I want to go to Wiley Quizzes. And under Wiley Quizzes, I want to make sure that chapter 4 in edit test options, I want to add it as a new announcement to I give you display after, and the due date is the 23rd. And it is submitted. And you have it available. That is correct. So we went to chapter 5 and then we went to chapter 4. Okay, any questions? I think we're set on that. And then if I go to Wiley Reading and Adaptive, what I suggest you do is always go to the Wiley Plus course resources. You can go to, for instance, chapter 5. Right. And then you could basically then look at the managing data. And then in the managing data, you see this, Gabriella, you see here on the difficulties of managing data. You see that, Gabriella?
Yes.
And basically, we talked about it last time. What's the difficulties of managing data? There's so much data, especially historical data. Think about even the university. How much data is available to the university just on students, just on faculty, just on vendors, just on potential students, just on students that have graduated, alumni. Why do we care about alumni? We want to maybe offer additional courses to alumni. So data scattered throughout the organization. Data can be in a silo. You know what a silo is, Gabriella? A silo is a place in which data is stored, but no one else can share it. So maybe a student organization can have it, or sports can have it, but others cannot have it. So there's a problem that is being generated from multiple sources. So this is be done And then let me just do this. It is basically, you can think about it. And when you think about it and your understanding here is that we have something called data and we have something called data. We have data streams. So in River, when we talk about data streams, it's like streaming data, like streaming anything from the internet. It's the data is just not one piece of data, but it comes in incessantly, one right after the other. So for instance, if I go to a CVS, right, and I scan my item of, let's say I get a bottle of water, right, and I scan it via its barcode, that's a transaction. And what is that? That's what we call a point of sale. At that counter, we make that sale and it already goes into the system. So in this case, when it says which of the following data sources can be classified as data streams, what would it be? What would the answer be, River? A, corporate databases,
Point
B,
of
government
sale.
reports, point of sale, right? So if it's point of sale, I can go to point of sale and I can submit my answer. So I have my point of answer. That point of sale is going to be streaming. These other ones are not streamed, but they're passed. So what I have is I have something called data governance. So Amelie, the idea of data governance is the idea somebody has to manage all the data in an organization, even among yourself, right? You have all this data. Let's say you have all the data you have to do it, but just think of an enterprise like a university, how much data it has to manage across the entire organization. There has to be certain rules. I don't want to collect data that is not needed, but there's some data that I have to keep secure. And then I have to keep it up to date. If you've moved 3 times, Amelie, what's the problem? I don't know what data to trust, right? I don't know where I'm supposed to do it. Your email may have changed, whatever it is here that you have to do it. So there's something called master data management. So we need to know first, what is master data? So basically, when I think about master data, I'm not thinking about the details of the data. I'm more or less thinking about the generic names of the data. So if we were going to do the stock market, for instance, Gabriella, what kind of master data would I want? I want to have the symbol of the what? I want the symbol of the equity I had, right? I want to get a date. I want to get an open. I want to get a close. I want to get a number of different data items. If I'm thinking about students in this case, River, if I think about students in this case, what data would I want to collect if I were a professor? A C number? What else? And last name, first name, address, maybe GPA, major, all of that about my student database. That would be those, you can think about field names would be called my master data. So my master data, it's like customer, product, employee, or it could be student, and basically GPA, major, your address, and transactions would be the details. So the transaction would be basically on September 16th, what did the Nadivia do at the closing price? That would be the transaction. And then you can look at it when we think about data governance, as we went through it, we can think about what are examples then of master data. Gabrielle, Andrea, it would be what? What are examples of master data? Would it be business transactions, customer, product, employee, vendor, geographic, business reports, or business strategy documents?
The first one?
We're talking about master data. We talked about master data being generic, master data being the fields.
So
Gabriella.
Customers, product, employee, vendors.
Yeah. Business transactions would be the details. Great idea that we almost rehearsed it here. Business transaction would be, for instance, I bought this bottle of water for $1.99 on September 8/16/2024 at 5:20 p.m. That's a business transaction. This master data, it's basically, what data am I going to collect? What's the description of my data? So think about, put in your notes here, master data is more like the description of my data. So basically you can think about data governance, master data, and transactional data that you went through. So what we talked about before is that database approach, that when we talk about a database approach, this was the what's important here. And these are going to be keys. This is going to be asked in this case, Gabrielle Andrea, this is going to be asked on the test. I guarantee you. That idea of when I think about a database approach, I think about a data file, which is a logical related records. And what I'm doing in a database are certain things that I want to minimize. In a database system, unlike just a file system, there's certain things that I want to minimize. When we talked about database systems, what we're trying to do is collect data that's common to all my different departments to be able to share that data. So I want to minimize data redundancy. So I need to know, what is data redundancy? Data redundancy is that same data that's stored in multiple locations. Why do I want to reduce that? Why do I want to minimize that? Do you understand the question? Max, do you understand the question? The question is, in database management systems, they say here, in database management systems, they say they want to minimize data redundancy. And my question is, why is the goal in database management systems to minimize data redundancy? They say the same data is stored in multiple locations. It could be stored, basically, your address could be stored in the business school. It can be stored in the finance department. It could be stored in the health center. Your address could be stored in the registrar's office. It could be stored in admissions. Why does that need to be minimized, that data redundancy? Max?
I think it has to be minimized just so it's like easier, because like if you have a ton of data that repeats, like you only need the data once. You don't need it to.
But basically, first of all, it takes up locations, right? And what else? And there could be, in that data redundant, could be more errors in it, right? You move, Max, and I can have 5 different addresses to you. One is, why store it multiple times if I only need it once? So I want to minimize it. Data isolation is, there may be data that only one application can use it. So in that case, I want many applications to use it. For instance, your address, if only the registrar has it, I may need your address. I may want to find where are you from originally, Max?
I'm from New Jersey.
Okay, so let's say we were doing a data mart search and we wanted to look at students from New Jersey. Seems like Jersey, then, are those students, there's something about those students that really like UM and really succeed. If we wanted to find those students from Jersey, and I wanted to do that study, I think artificial intelligence can help us in that. If only the registrar had that information, we wouldn't have that. So that's data isolation. Data inconsistency means what? Daniela, Christina? Data inconsistency means what? If I said the data was not consistent, it had inconsistency.
The data is not the same in the different places.
The address, you move 3 times, I have 3 different addresses. It's inconsistent. What do I want to do? I want to minimize it. What do I want to maximize? The whole idea, when I think about data, Noah, when I think about data, is that data is going to be put in one place. If it's put in one place, is it going to be more vulnerable? Noah?
Yeah.
And once I lose that data, somebody comes and they do ransomware and they take my data, or they delete my data. What's the problem? I don't have many backups. So I want to maximize data security. So just as if, put these in your notes, just as if these are the things I want to minimize, data redundancy, data isolation, and data inconsistency, I want to maximize data security, because if I start reducing the redundancy max, what happens? I start reducing it, it's in one place, then it's going to be more vulnerable. If I lose it, somebody goes ahead and starts changing it. I was in a place where somebody started, was an entrepreneur, and their job was computer science. So they say, go ahead and do something that you always know about. So what did they do? They basically said, have you ever heard that if you're an entrepreneur, do something that you love or something that you're familiar with? Don't go, I'm not going to be an astronaut, so I'm not going to go ahead and develop things for astronauts. I know nothing about astronauts. I don't know what are their likes, but if I think about it, maybe I'll start something for professors. I know something about professors. Or I know something maybe about do something in conjunction with students so we can do for universities. So I was at another university where they had an entrepreneur there. And this entrepreneur was in charge of the computer system, the administrative computer system of the university. He was a computer science major, and he was afraid he got a great job in charge helping with the computing administration. So and he was also a student. So he was access to the computers from the university, and access to students, because he knew a lot of students and knew what the students' needs are. So I can tell you here, when anybody ever sees me after they've taken the class and right after they got their grades, I can guarantee you that I have never, in all my years that I have been a professor, ever had a student say, hi, Dr. Rush. If they saw me at the wellness center or something, you gave me that B, and you know what? I deserved a C minus. I have never gotten that, you just gave me a too high. What is it usually, right? That, I don't know why I didn't get an A plus, So what do you think the student did? What does he know? Any ideas what the student ended up doing? The student ended up getting a little side hustle of changing grades. He had access to the grades, and so he changed the grade, and he got caught, because I'm telling you the story, right? So how would I know? I don't think he would have come to class and say, hey, guess what, Dr. Rush? Guess what my new entrepreneur endeavors are? So he got caught. So he changed grade. And how much did he charge for grade changes, you think? The same price for each one? Because if I think about time, if you got an F and he went to an A, it cost him right under the same time, right, to put in from the F to an A as it would be from a B minus to an A. So how did he charge? Any ideas? What do you think, Anders?
Maybe like a weekly, like a monthly subscription or
Well, but
something.
how much did he charge? Did he change the same price if you got an F and went to an A versus if you got a B and wanted to go to an A?
Yeah, it's probably more expensive the higher you want your grade to jump.
He basically, for each grade change, he would charge you. You want one grade change up, he would charge. 2 grade changes up, it would be different. And so how do you think he got caught? If I'm telling the story, any ideas? What do you think,
Maybe
Franco?
someone snitched.
Right. Someone usually that's kind of like, right. It's not, you think all those computer controls, right? When they go in the system, he goes in, he shouldn't be going and making a grade change that it should be doing. It wouldn't be, you could think maybe it was after hours, maybe it was in the grade system. He shouldn't have been into the grade system. There could be an audit trail, but you're right. And why'd they snitch? Because people get greedy. And if you look about greed, a lot of times people do all right in the beginning, but then they get overly greedy, or they do like short term, they want to do a short term fix, but they don't, they keep on going. But that's how he got his grade change when he raised his prices too high. And then can you imagine what it was for? I read it in not only from the university, but from the city paper. This was at another university, wasn't here. And I read it from another university. And then when you thought about recruiters, when I came and I said, Amelie, you have a 4.0. And they said, is that real or is that on the grade change, right? So everybody is thinking about the data being, and why am I saying about minimizing those data inconsistencies, right? That one time it was a 2.0 and now all of a sudden it's a 4.0. People were not even finding that out. So you can see the importance of data. And what was the problem, Andres? The problem is the administrative side was blended in with basically the student side. So they had just one system, so you could go into both sides. He shouldn't have had any. Did he have a need to know and need to change grades? No, but they had it. It was weak controls, and based on those weak controls, he was able to make those changes. So that's in part the same way when we think about this data security, why we need to keep it place, minimize mistakes in here, because they had the grades in one place. He could make changes to it. So if it were in this case, Max, you can think about it. If one grade, the grade that I gave somebody was a C and another place it was an A, somebody could say, hey, there's an inconsistency here. Maybe inconsistencies are good. We can do investigations. But because the database wanted to eliminate the data inconsistency, we have to worry about data integrity. We also have to worry about data independence, that they're not linked to each other, so all applications can access that same data. So that's the key here. You also have the, let me just page up here. Let's see which one to show you here. So this area we need right here. We need to talk about defining big data. And big data, there's two descriptions of big data. The first description of big data is that it's diverse. We have high volume. And let's think about the stock market, right? When I was thinking about the stock market, I have high volume, high velocity. I have information to make decisions with. And we also talked about this. One more. We talked about the database approach, where we talked about data hierarchy, like a table where I have rows and columns, right? And I also talked about minimizing my data, of data redundancy, isolations, and inconsistency. And I talked about maximizing it. And I also talked about the idea that I could have the registrar's office needing data. I could have the accounting department needing data. They need sometimes different data, but they also need some common data that's important for them. We also talked about the data hierarchy. You remember we talked about a bit being a 0 or 1, a byte being a character. Remember? So if I looked at Ava, in the part, what Ava Riley then in the part, if we looked at what she was doing, one character in her name would be what? So Ava Riley, we're here. Ava Riley, you want to talk to us? I guess not. She just shows her face and then we continue with her. Okay, so does anybody want to text her and tell her that we're calling on her? Okay. Bianca, are you there? Okay, and Jason. So Jason, a byte or a character is what?
I'm
So if
not
I look
fully
at your
sure.
name, what is one byte or one character?
I'm not fully sure.
Okay. Do you know what a character is? If I look at what is your first character of your name?
That would be J.
J. So that's going to be a byte or a character. So in this case, if we talked about Ava, well, we talked about a byte or a character. First, the character would be what? In your first name, then how many characters do you have? Ava.
Me, Ava?
Yeah, you, Ava. We've been
Okay.
calling on you for the past couple of minutes, Ava. Been
Sorry,
busy.
there's two Avas, so I wasn't sure.
Okay, you're right, but you were busy at that time. Okay, Ava. So what is it? So if I talked about Ava, we're talking about you, Ava. So if we talked about a byte or a character, what is that? If I looked at your name, then Ava, how many characters do you have in your first name?
3.
3, right? So each of those are 3. And if we had then, Ava, you're on a roll. If we had then a table for this file, we would have each of the columns. If I had a grade book, I would have, for instance, C number, first name, last name. They would all be fields or attributes in the column. And then I would have a data file or a table or a sheet. And a number of tables together would make then a part. So I have here the university. I have a student, I have John, the major, and I have faculties as data. And then what I have then is I have a relational database that in this, I have, in this case, if I said how many fields do I have, it would be what, Ava? In this table, in this student table. How many, if I asked in the exam, how many fields would I have in this table?
Would it be 5?
Right, it would be 5. And if I asked you, give me the primary key, you remember what a primary key was, Ava? A primary key is a key that, or a field that is going to be unique to find a certain record. So if I had to find a certain record in this table, what would be the primary key?
The student
name
ID.
of the student ID, because that's unique. In our case, it would be like student C number, student name. And if it would ask, why isn't student name and why is student ID a better primary key than student name? It would be what? That student ID is unique. Student name, there could be other Avas as a possibility. So we talk about big data as being able, in my big data, for the characteristics of my big data, to have a lot of volume, to have a lot of velocity, meaning that it goes fast, and to have a lot of variety. And to manage that big data, what we need is a data environment that we will be using in this class. And what we'll be doing in this class is we'll be taking, for instance, we'll be using stock market data, and we'll be using stock market data. And let me just let's do this. Okay, we'll even do this. Okay, there's the company. The symbol is MBLY. And if I look at the symbol MBLY, Eli, if I look at this symbol here and I look at the historical data, this would be like a table, a database. What in this case, I have date, open, high, low, close, and adjusted close and volume. They are all what? Fields in my database. You got that, Eli? Yes, no?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're fields in my database. So my question to you, in this case, only in this table, this could be like a test, a question on the test. If I gave you this table, what would be the primary key? What's the definition, Eli, of the primary key? Something that's unique to find a record. And what's a record? It's one of these rows in the database, in the file. So you want to repeat Eli, you want to repeat what the question is? Eli, what's the question? I just asked.
No, I'm sorry, my volume's a little messed up.
Okay, so my question is, what is unique? What is the unique field? Isabel, what's the unique field?
I'm not sure.
Okay, well, let's not even say, I'm not sure. What is a primary key? What is the definition of a primary key? The definition of primary key is something that is unique that cannot repeat. So if this is end of day data, what is unique here? Let's look at it. Could we have several days that had the same open? Could that be a possibility? Yes. Could the high be a possibility? Could that repeat over time? Yes. Could the low repeat over time? So in this case, Alexandria, what would be the primary key? What's unique here? What doesn't repeat in this database?
Would
In
it be
this
the
file?
same?
What, Alexandria? I can't hear you. Did you say date?
Yeah.
Right. Because this is end of day data. So September 16th, do you see that? Everybody see that? Ellie, you see that? So September 16th, it's not going to repeat 2024. What will repeat is maybe just September 16th, 2025, but that's not going to be unique. So what we need to do then is take this data, and if it's the date and the open and the high is forecast, what will not be, we have to look at the past and then forecast what's going to be in the future. So we have then the historical prices you can see. And then we want it end of day, that it's daily. And then what we want to do is that if we chart it, we can see what the trend is. And based on the trend, we want to forecast either short-term or long-term. So if I look at this trend of this stock, is the trend then, Parker, going up, you think, for this year, 1 year, going down or staying the same? The overall trend, Parker.
It looks like it's going down.
It looks like it's going down. And if I looked at how it did in a year, can you see this? It says minus 69%. So if a year ago we invested in this and held it, will we be doing well or not? We'd lose almost 70%. And year to date, it went 73%. And 2 years, it didn't do too well either. In 5 years, it didn't do too well either. And in 3 months, it didn't. And then if we wanted later on, we would want to change it to other ones, we would be able to do it. And notice right at the end here, it looks like it's going up a little bit, but the question is, what is going to be the trend? What's going to be tomorrow? And basically, if I go to a year here, you can see that there's two. These are called, you see this red line and you see this blue line? Ellie, do you see these? These are what they call moving averages. One, every 25 periods, it makes an average. And what are moving averages for? It kind of doesn't, you see how it takes off the chop over here where it's so real choppy, or right down here, it smooths it out. And this is a 25-day moving average, and this is a 10-day, every 10 days it takes the average. And there's some algorithms or strategies that say when the moving average of the fast is this one, when it crosses and goes up, then maybe we can forecast that it's going to go up, which it did. What we have to do, we can buy there, but then what we have to do is we have to know when to get out of the trade. And so maybe sometimes what it says, when the moving average of the red, for instance, the 10 falls below, the 25, then what should we do is maybe we should sell, because does it look like it's going down, Ellie? Yeah.
Yeah.
And what we want is the computer to do the buying and selling for us. And there's something called, Gabriella, have you ever heard something called short? A short?
Nope.
So basically we can buy a stock, right? We can sell one. And we can basically short. And what's short? Demian, have you ever heard of a short?
I've heard of it, but I don't know.
Okay, it's basically we're betting that the stock is going up or down. What do you think, Demian?
Down.
Yeah. When I bet it's going down, so when the stock is going down, I can make money. I can make money in any direction, but guess what, Demian? I have to be correct in the trend, and it depends on what happened. Easier said than done. And now with the advent of algorithms and artificial intelligence, machine learning, these machines are trying to forecast what is happening based on what? Patterns. Not easy, but like, look at this. And then if we put NVIDIA, right? And if I did NVIDIA and I looked at their chart. Have you heard, Noah, of NVIDIA?
Yeah, they make chips.
They make chips. And what's so great about their chips? It's basically for
They're
AI,
good for
right?
AI.
Right, they're that neural. And Noah, you think the trend is in this one for a year is going up the trend or is going down like the other one?
Up.
Up. For 1 year, instead of minus 79%, if we invested in NVIDIA for a year, it was 166%. Sounds a lot better, no, right? We can go on a nice vacation. I could take you out for a nice dinner, right? With those gains. But look, but the question is, if I look at year to date, that was 166. Already year to date, it's gone down a bit. Still pretty good, 135. 6 months, what is it, 32? It's already gone down. 3 months is 11%. So if we got in it 3 months ago, no, you would be yelling at me and say, Dr. Rush, what are you telling me to invest in this? I've already lost 11%. And then in a month, I didn't do as bad, 4%. And in 5 days, you've already been up. So it's a little bit volatile here to guess what is going to be doing in the short run versus the long run. Okay. So once I manage my data, I have something called a data warehouse and a data mart. Put this in your notes then, Ellie. In a data warehouse, we're talking about historical data. Both a data warehouse and data mart is talking about historical data, not transactional data. It is used for studies, not to tell about my present type of data, not to tell about my inventory. A data warehouse, when I'm talking about, it's going to be historical data that's organized. A data warehouse is going to be time variant. The time is going to be crucial, and it's going to be non-volatile. So if I think, Ellie, what does non-volatile mean? You remember? We talked about RAM and primary storage. We talked about volatile. What do we mean, Ricardo? What was non-volatile? What does volatile mean? That it moves, right? We talked about RAM. Put it in your notes. We talked about memory being volatile. When I turn off my computer, what does it mean, Ellie? That I lose my data. Non-volatile, Ricardo, means what?
Volatile means
It stays. It doesn't move. So this characteristic of a data warehouse is that it remains in place. So that data warehouse, the idea of it, it's going to remain in place, and everything that's a cylinder here, you see this, Emily? Everything that's like a cylinder, you see source systems, enterprise data warehouse, data mart, these are all databases. So you can put in your notes here, whenever you see a cylinder, it means it's a data warehouse. And what all of this means in the framework is that I have data from different sources, I clean it, meaning that the data becomes accurate. If there's any missing data, I fill it in, and then I put it into what we call an enterprise data warehouse. And Emily, you remember what an enterprise is? What we said it was? Emily Marie.
No.
Okay, look it up. Do something. Look it up. What does enterprise mean? In this case. Jose, what does enterprise mean? Jose Daniel, what does enterprise mean?
Wouldn't it be like the big corporation?
It's basically right. A business is the university and enterprise. Jose.
Yes.
Yes, right, Franco. So an enterprise means that it's what? The university, if we think about a university, it's going to hold all the data of students. Of which ones? Basic historical or present day? Franco. Is a data warehouse historical or present? Franco.
Present.
Data warehouse. Sophia, is it present or historical?
Historical.
Historical, it's past. So this would be maybe from my students that have graduated. Franco, so historical, put in your notes there that a data warehouse is always historical. If we go, let's say in this case, we want to go on a flight, Franco. Have any idea where we want to go? Let's say we want to go on a cruise. Let's say in this case, you know what? Next week, on the weekend, I'm going to have a special. I'm going to have some AI speakers, and we're all going to get, we already talked with Royal Caribbean, and they're going to give us discounted prices on a cruise, and we're going to study there. We're going to have guest speakers come in. In this case, those guest speakers, if I was going to everybody get online and register for the cruise, do you think the cruise would be real time or historical when I'm going to register? Franco, is the data real time or historical when I want to get a room on a cruise?
Real time.
Real time. After we did our cruise and we had fun on the cruise, maybe, and everybody came, we got to know each other. We took over the casino in the morning. We took over the nightclub during the day, gave lectures there, and then at night we had some dinner, and then we all went dancing. In this case, maybe what they would do is later on they'd put that type of data, how happy everybody was, in the enterprise data warehouse and figured out, should we do this again? And basically doing that again would be data marts. How can we get maybe people that graduated get continuing education by going on a cruise? That would be a data mart. And that would be the marketing of the data mart. So in that case, that's going to be the data mart of a data mart, put it in your notes then, is a subset of the enterprise, being a hypothesis, just checking if we give courses on cruises, will that be good for the School of Business? Will it be profitable? Will students like it? Or going abroad, maybe instead of a cruise, that's kind of old fashioned. We'll do summer sessions. We'll do it in Italy and France and Spain. That'll be my data mart based on data that I had before that I'm testing out. So that is the key. Questions. So the difference between, so if I go back to my data here, and I go to historical data, what we'll be doing in our historical data is we'll be downloading data and looking back in time and looking at data back in time for these type of products is called back testing. We will be looking back in time to see the trends. And then we will forecast the future. Using what we call algorithms. And they're basically, we use with these algorithms, we use people to do this, plus machine learning to find patterns in our data. Questions? Are there any questions on the chat? Am I okay with the chat? Everything's okay? Louisa, any questions? Okay, so Louisa, what we're going to be doing on Wednesdays, we're going to be talking about data algorithms, back testing, and we're going to be using software to get our hands dirty. And bringing that chapter, which seems so boring and like so irrelevant, how's that important to us to see what it is? And people that are doing it is a lot of times they call it quants. Sometimes they call it quant traders that write the algorithms or implement the algorithms to do trading, and they starting salaries beginning is $250K a year, plus if your algorithms work, you get bonuses. So you know it's pretty. And what are they trying to do now is use generative AI and artificial intelligence to start writing those algorithms, or basically working together with those systems. And what people are doing is they're basically testing out all those algorithms and trying to make it basically learn from its mistakes. And how do you know when it's learning mistakes? For instance, in that case, when my portfolio is losing and another portfolio with another algorithm is winning, we need to make corrections, and it's a continuous correction. And we want the system to start correcting itself. Do you understand, Louisa? So we want it to start correcting itself. That's where it's being done now. About 95% of all trades are being done via the computers, and being through all these bots and algorithms. And now it's going to a higher level where they're using much more artificial intelligence to try to even monitor these systems. So when you see a lot of times the market go down completely, goes precipitously down, you'll see because a lot of people are using similar bots. They're called bots, almost like robots that are trading the market. And when it goes up, and the idea is depending on what your trading horizon is it once a day? Is it what they call high frequency trading? Louisa, blink your eyes a couple times. In that time, there could have been thousands or millions of trades being done at that time. It's amazing. That's why it's called high frequency. They want their server. You know how YouTube, we always say YouTube is lagging. Whatever I speak, you can see it like it's a minute late. That latency, Louisa, that latency is too slow for high frequency trading. You've already been in and out of the trade before I even clicked YouTube Live. So you need almost like these bots. And what do? They put the server. We don't even know where the server is for YouTube. We don't know where the server is for Zoom, do we? We're all online, right? What else are we using? Loom. What did you use for your screencasting program, Louisa?
I used Screen Rec.
Okay, was Screen Rec on your computer, or was it basically a server somewhere? Did you have to go through a URL, or did you download it
I downloaded it.
into your computer? So if you were using something like Zoom, we can record to the cloud, recording to the cloud, or even being on Zoom, we're dependent. It's a little bit of a lag there. So what those traders do is they say, you know what? Our server has to be inside of the NASDAQ. That's how close it has to be. You know, even those miles, we can't afford. If we're doing high frequency trading, we can't even afford it. But if we're doing end of day trading, it doesn't matter. You understand? But if I'm doing these high frequencies, so there's a number of different propositions that, you know, Google and all that cloud service that we always think about the cloud being so great is too slow for some of these. And what Google and some other companies and AWS, Amazon is trying to reduce that latency. They pay for it, right? For others, we don't care. What do I care in YouTube that they see me 2 minutes later? I'm not doing surgery on somebody, right? I'm not saying follow me. And as soon as I say follow me on this trade, before I say buy and then I say sell. By the time you see it, you're already too late. Okay, so that's what we'll be doing in the next couple of weeks, is exploring data, but in terms of what are models, how do you write an algorithm, how do you even use an algorithm, what is an algorithm? And guess what? More and more of this Gen AI will start writing algorithm, but somebody has to, intelligent humans have to be working with the machine. Just to say, let it go and I'm losing, it's not enough. Somebody has to supervise it and somebody has to work with it and come up with ideas. Any other comments that I need to do? Everybody okay? Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to be doing the attendance. After the attendance, what we'll do is stay with me for any comments, questions. And then what I will do is on Wednesday, we'll start looking at applying data. Applying, what does it mean, historical data? What does it mean, back testing? What does it mean to forecast? Okay, great. So I'll see you guys. Let me share my screen. We got the NVIDIA thing. And then we need attendance. We go to attendance. Let me check in. Start checking. 9697. So do the attendance 96. If you have questions, stay with me. Otherwise, we'll see each other in a couple of days.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, did everybody sign in? Everybody got it?
Yeah, I just had a comment.
Yes.
So for the first assignment, I was group 1. My group mates are on here too. and 2 of us.
Hold on,
for-
let me just stop the recording, okay?
Oh, you're good.
Allison, this doesn't apply to everybody, right?
No, no, no.